They said they wanted a huge stacked card for UFC 250. I'm here to provide it to them free of charge. Here's the entire card for UFC 250, starting with the main event, ending with the first fight of the night. Sean Shelby and Mick Maynard, just let me know and I'll take the job. Starting with Stipe Miocic versus Daniel Cormier 3. It seems like a good time frame to get these two back in there. The trilogy fight needs to happen so the rest of the heavyweight division can move onwards. And in the terms of a huge pay-per-view, you gotta have the heavyweights at the top of the bill. The heavyweights always seem to top the bill, even if they aren't the biggest names. Stipe Miocic versus Daniel Cormier 3 should 100% be the main event of UFC 250. Sign me up. In the co-main event, Kamaru Usman versus Jorge Masvidal. That definitely needs to happen. It should really be the main event, but as I said before, the heavyweights always seem to take priority because there's this ego and pride around the heavyweight division being the best division there is, even when your smaller guys have bigger names. You know what I'm saying? So Kamaru Usman versus Jorge Masvidal, I feel like would be the perfect accompaniment. And also, it's good for the heavyweight division because Stipe Miocic doesn't get a lot of rub. And if he can beat Daniel Cormier, and Cormier goes away, and if Stipe can stay as heavyweight champion, it'd give the heavyweight division a bit of a boost as well to have Usman and Masvidal as the co-main event, because let's be honest, even though they're the co-main event, we all know what's bringing in the numbers. Masvidal's bringing in the numbers, and Usman's tagging along for the ride. You know what I'm saying? Usman versus Masvidal should happen next. It even guarantees that because Leon Edwards, Tyron Woodley seems to be happening next in UFC London in the main event, which would be amazing. Usman versus Jorge Masvidal. Speaking of Tyron Woodley versus Leon Edwards in London, it leaves another man out of the mix. Darren Till leaves him out. Woodley versus Edwards in London means that there's no Darren Till because there's no way that Darren Till's taking a co-main event spot behind Leon Edwards and Tyron Woodley. I don't see that happening. And if he does do it, then more power to him, I guess. But if not, I think he should take his knee injury very, very seriously. Okay? If Cannonier beats Whittaker, I feel like he should get the title shot against Israel Adesanya. That's pretty much a fact. Paulo Costa is going to be back and ready to fight around late April. Okay? Bring him back in here at UFC 250 against Darren Till. Let me tell you another thing. Darren Till has a serious knee injury that he wants to put off to the side so that he can get right back in there against another contender and keep the momentum going. I really think you should take a knee injury very seriously, especially when you're a striker and guys really want to take you down. Turns out knees are real important for sprawling, okay? And I feel like Darren Till should take it seriously. Get it looked at, get it healed up, come back again at UFC 250 as the feature fight against Paulo Costa, who will be making his return and who will also need a little bit of a momentum boost. Both guys are the odd men out in the middleweight division right now. Paulo Costa versus Darren Till in the feature bout. Tell me this card doesn't sound just wonderful. Next fight up, Wonderboy Thompson versus Dos Anjos versus Chiesa winner. It gives Chiesa Dos Anjos winner enough time to recover after their fight. However long it goes, they'll give him roughly about 4 months before they're allowed to fight again, which will be good for them to get a nice little bit of rest in between fights. Wonderboy broke both his hands in the Vicente Luque fight, so I'm sure he's looking for not the longest amount of time off, but a little bit of time off, I'm sure. Wonderboy versus the Dos Anjos versus Chiesa winner sounds amazing on the main card to me. Thiago Santos versus Anthony Smith 2. Smith doesn't want to return unless it's in America, which I'm assuming UFC 250 is going to be, because anytime they do a super event, it tends to be in America where they can make the most money with their venues. Santos won't be back until around the middle of the year anyway. Around May, maybe April at a push. He's already walking again, I hear, which is a good sign. Santos versus Anthony Smith 2 is the perfect clarification fight that we need in the light heavyweight division. Because we got two guys at the very top of the rankings. Fought each other a very long time ago. We need to know who's the best right now. Okay? And Ozdemir Smith 2 doesn't make any sense. Ozdemir, of course, got gifted a decision over Alexander Rakic. That doesn't make much sense. If Rakic would have got the nod like he should have done, I would have loved to see Rakic versus Anthony Smith. But Ozdemir's already lost to Anthony Smith, so there's no real oomph behind that. I feel like there is an oomph behind Thiago Santos versus Anthony Smith 2. And I'd love to see it. Amazing fight. That's the main card. To sum up, Miocic DC 3. Usman versus Masvidal should be the main event, but it's the co-main because heavyweights get a little bit of priority. Costa versus Darren Till. Wonderboy versus the Dos Anjos versus Chiesa winner. Santos versus Anthony Smith 2. Sign me up. Sign me the fuck up. It's a wonderful main card. Moving on to the prelims. Edgar versus Urijah Faber 2. I feel like both of their stocks have kind of dropped a tiny bit. But as the headliner of a prelims, I like it. I really do. It juice up the prelims a little bit. And I think the prelims are a very underrated aspect of a UFC pay-per-view. More people watch the prelims by numbers than they do on the pay-per-view. That's a fact. Obviously, there's illegal streaming that's going to come into things and sway the numbers. But in terms of a legal viewing standpoint, more people watch prelims than the pay-per-view card. And that's a fact. They're going to be watching the prelims. Give them a solid headliner of the prelims so that they tune in to watch it. I feel like that's a great idea. Urijah Faber, Frankie Edgar 2. Give both guys a little bit of time off because they've both taken a little bit of a beating in their last 2 fights. Both of their stocks have kind of come down again. And it's the perfect bantamweight fight for Frankie Edgar to test, are you in there with the best? You know? Are you going to be able to hang at bantamweight now that we've seen you lose to the Korean Zombie? Have you still got it? Is this your last time out? Urijah Faber, has he still got it? Is he still going to be relevant in the bantamweight division? Can he beat a guy like Frankie Edgar coming down? And also, 2 big names, fun fight, a rematch that I'd love to see. Edgar versus Urijah Faber would bring in the numbers to the prelims and give shine to the rest of the guys I'm going to put on this preliminary card. Shane Burgos versus Ryan Hall is the co-main event of the prelims. Amazing fight. Both guys kind of prelim-worthy fighters on a pay-per-view, so it makes a lot of sense. Burgos coming off a big win over Makwan Amirkhani, a guy who likes to take you down and get the submissions. Ties in some relevance towards Ryan Hall. Ryan Hall last beat Darren Elkins, which isn't the most impressive win right now, but a decent win nevertheless that gets you ranked. Shane Burgos, Ryan Hall. The winner can get to jump up the rankings that they're looking for. Because Burgos is in a weird position right now because he keeps winning, but there are guys above him that have beaten him. One guy, Calvin Kattar, which is tough for him. So I think maybe if you get Calvin Kattar another win under his belt, that's a rematch that can happen down the line. Shane Burgos versus Ryan Hall makes all levels of sense to me. I'd love to see that shit on the co-main event of the prelims. Also on the prelims, Michelle Waterson versus Nina Anza. Both girls looking to take some time. Nina Anza, professional fucking fuck buddy of Amanda Nunes. Not really much going on in her own career. Lost to Suarez in her last fight. Made it competitive though. It was a good fight. There is some stuff going on in her career. And if she can get a win over Michelle Waterson, if Michelle Waterson can get a win over Nina Anza, now we're talking again. We're talking title shots. We're talking title elimination bouts. Michelle Waterson, Nina Anza. I know you're going to be saying, oh, you expect to get all these guys on this card. 250 is going to be a huge card. It needs to be a great card, okay? UFC 250. We're halfway through the 100 here, okay? It needs to be good. Moving on, Bryce Mitchell versus Hakim Dowell to open up the prelims of UFC 250. That sounds like an amazing fight to me. Time frames work out perfectly. Bryce Mitchell, Hakim Dowell, South versus the North, all the way North, Canada actually. Sounds good to me. 2 up-and-coming featherweight contenders, both 3-0. Hakim Dowell 3-1, I believe. I believe he lost to Callan Potter or someone along those lines in his first UFC fight. He got taken down. And I think that Hakim Dowdou's beaten a lot of good guys, but not the guys that are really going to propel you and get that clout and that call-out power to boost you up the rankings. Bryce Mitchell's that win for Hakim Dowdou. Hakim Dowdou is that win for Bryce Mitchell. 2 streaking contenders. There can only be one. The winner gets all the chips and calls out a guy above the rankings. Maybe if Arnold Allen beats Josh Emmett, the winner of this one can get a shot at him. Sounds good to me. Sounds real good to me. And that ends off the prelims. To sum up, Edgar Faber 2, Burgos Ryan Hall, Waterson Nina Anza, Mitchell versus Dowdou. Amazing time on the prelims. Moving on to the early prelims. Little bit of a showcase for some of the guys who want to watch the card for free pretty much. But I think the headliner of the prelims, who hasn't quite earned his way through yet, but they will do with a win like this. The headliner of the early prelims for me, Mahmoud Muradov versus Wellington Turman. Sounds like an amazing fight. I'd love to watch it. Headliner of the prelims. Gets its own little showcase. The rest of the early prelims are kind of shit on a little bit, but the headliner of the early prelims gets a little bit of a rub themselves, you know, and it's an upgrade from when Mahmoud Muradov was the starter. First fight of the night in his last event out there. Makhmud Muradov, Wellington Turman. See who's the next guy coming up. That sounds like an amazing fight to me. Then you've got Hunter Azure versus Benito Lopez to happen on the early prelims as well. And then one more giveaway fight because we need to save some talent. Hannah Goldie versus Yinan Wu. No one really gives a fuck about that one, but it's on there anyway because we need to fill up the card. Sounds good to me. I'd buy that shit. If someone come up to me the other day and said, I need £100 in my palm right now, and in exchange, I will let you watch 12 fights, including Miocic DC3, Usman Masvidal in the co-main event, Costa vs Darren Till, Wonderboy vs Dos Anjos Chiesa, Santos vs Anthony Smith, Edgar Faber 2, Burgos Ryan Hall, Waterson vs Anza, Mitchell vs Dowell, Muradov vs Turman, Azure vs Lopez, Goldie vs Yinan Wu, even subtract that one because no one gives a fuck. 11 fights I would love to watch. Make it happen. And before you tell me that's never going to happen, look at 244. Look at 245. If we can splash out for these insignificant middle of the 40 ranges of pay-per-views, it's 250. It's a big moment, okay? That's 250,000. Let's make it a night to remember. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. See you later. Click that one there. Goodbye.